This is the Literacy Mindset Podcast, where education leaders discuss identifying and removing phonological barriers with Mindplay's CEO, Jeff Pendleton.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I'm very excited for another episode in our Oklahoma mini-series of the podcast on the literacy mindset here. Today, I have my guest, Principal Jim Franz from Bishop Kelley Catholic High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Welcome to the show, sir.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited to have conversations about literacy at the high school level, and in particular, potentially a Catholic high school, private high school slant to this that maybe gives us a space to explore some of the nuances and differences that can exist as we pursue this. But let's start with just a little bit of context setting first. Can you give the audience a little bit about you and how it is that you got to be in your seat here as principal?
Sure. So this is year 44 for me in a teaching career. I began as a missionary in the Samoan Islands, teaching English, and then went to an inner city school in San Antonio, Holy Cross High School. And I was there for 13 years. 10 of those, I was a vice principal for academics, and then moved to Bishop Gorman Catholic School in Tyler, Texas. I was head of school there for 19 years, and then moved to Bishop Kelley in 2017, where I served as a principal. And I also teach English. So all 44 years, I have been an English teacher. Right now, I teach AP English language. I actually have taught that for about 25 years. This coming school year, I'll be teaching freshmen, an intro English class for freshmen. So, it has varied over the years, but probably I've been mostly in the AP English language circle.
I love that you keep yourself engaged in a class as principal. You still teach a class. Is that something that is pretty common across the diocese, or is that something that you just want to do to stay connected?
Yeah, it's probably not very common these days at all. It's really, in the Catholic tradition, it is not unusual, not uncommon. 200 or 300 years ago, almost all Catholic school would have had leaders, administrators who were also teachers at the time. Actually, the term principal, I think, originates from principal teacher. As schools evolved and got larger, there was a need for one teacher to take over more administrative duties. I do it because it I guess two reasons. One, it keeps me connected well with students. So I like a large class. Last year I had 30 kids in that AP English language. We have almost all of our classes are about 22 or 23, maybe average about 18. So I push to make my class really big because it's the only opportunity I get to interact in a way in an academic setting with students. So I want to get as many as I can. And I get to know them, and I feel like keep in touch with where students are. I'm 65 years old, so 16-year-olds are in a different world today. And then two, I think it helps connect with teachers in a way. So one of the primary jobs I have as a school administrator is working with teachers to grow and become better teachers. Excellence in teaching is primary for a principal's job, and that it kind of endears me with teachers, and there's a credibility, a cred that I bring. I can't say, that guy's been, he's been out of a classroom for 32 years. What does he know about? He doesn't know what this is like at all. So it establishes a credibility and helps me know what those teachers struggle with as well, and kind of connect in to be able to help them create an environment where teaching excellence can happen better.
Excellent. No, I love that. Okay, I want to set the stage a little bit for a conversation about literacy. Obviously, literacy mindset. We talk a lot about literacy here. Love having an AP English lens on it, and now going into a freshman English class. As you think about the K-12 spectrum, the science of reading that sort of starts with these foundational skills, and then really the expectation is now we're fluent readers, 8th, 9th grade. Now it's just consuming information, right? What have you seen, maybe even at the foundational skills, maybe even comprehension or fluency? Are there things that you see sometimes over the years that surprises you that the students struggle with? Maybe not in AP English classes so much, but just in high school English settings. Are there things that maybe surface more than others that surprise you relative to just reading skills?
Yeah. It's a good question. I guess I would approach it from a little bit different angle, Jeff. I guess I'd suggest to you that literacy is a lifelong process. And no matter how educated one is, there's always a literacy to be gained. So if we define literacy as sort of an access and an understanding of the way a text is working and meaning within a text, then, I am illiterate in science journal. If I read a medical journal, I am illiterate. I can't read that document very well. I'm going to have training. I'm going to have, provide some structures, some ways that I can access that text with an understanding. So I think if we looked at literacy a little broader, and there's going to be varying levels. So even in an AP English class, I work on literacy all the time. That's really what I do. I'm working on literacy. I'm working on literacy with more complex texts. Many times it might be historical documents or maybe a speech or something from students don't really have great familiarity with. And so I think the approach to literacy can be very similar no matter what level, whether it's a first grader sort of accessing a, Jane and Spot reading book, or whether we're trying to read, a writing, the Declaration of Independence, or, something like the Declaration of Sentiments, something that may be completely foreign to a student. I think probably in that process, there's a few steps to gain literacy. So I'd say one is going to be initially for any teacher at any level is going to be, developing an access to it for a student. So, when a student picks up a book, let's just say an essay, maybe subconsciously, but somewhere along the lines, they look at it and say, oh, this is 5 pages. Oh, I can't do this. I don't know anything about this. I can't, I don't even understand how the title works or, what the title is saying. It looks like Old English or something. So helping a student to gain confidence in access to the text is really key. And so to do that, there's some simple ways to do that, no matter what level of literacy, wherever a person is. So one, I would say making observations about the text is really critical at the beginning. And I would encourage whatever, it might be 9th grade, it might be 11th grade. I do this in all levels that I would teach in high school, an astute observation. So what I mean by an observation would be, the title is Jane's trip to the mall. Okay, well, that's not a real observation. That's just, you're just repeating back to me something that you saw in the text. So an astute observation, I would say you have to connect it to something else that you can in your world. So I noticed that Juanita's always, the speaker of this is always presenting Juanita in a yellow dress. And yellow is a color generally associated with joy or sunshine. Okay, so there of encouraging a student to make an observation, but they have to connect it with something else that is in their world. So I'm helping them gain an access, a confidence into this text that I can at least begin to read, begin to understand. I could do the same with a word problem in math, a calculus problem, whatever it might be, a scientific journal, a biology textbook. If I can help them recognize some things and then begin to make connections with something within that text, I'm beginning to help them find access to it and develop out a little bit of a confidence in in being able to reach into that text. So that to me would be number one. And we use it all the time in an AP English class. So,
Love it.
The first thing we're going to do is, I want 10 astute observations. You and your partner read it through, or, this is homework. You kind of develop a level of independence. Second, I think in any literacy, you have to begin after that, before you can analyze it or completely understand it or pick out all the secret meaning or whatever, however we want to put that. You have to begin to put the text in some sort of a context. So I have to be able to help a student identify. So who is this written for? I mean, what kind of audience is this text for? What might be a reason that the speaker, the writer, is writing this particular text? What might be the purpose of this? What might be how is the speaker hoping to present themselves? What's the persona that the speaker is trying to? Why are they compelled to do this? What's the compulsion? Why this? Why is this letter from Abigail Adams to her son? Why is she writing this text? And then kind of some major appeal. So I'm helping a student, one, gain access to a text by making connections with something in their own lives, no matter what level they are. Two, I begin to help them understand the context for it. It was, it's written in 18th century. It was written in 2021, right after the pandemic or whatever it might be. And then third, now I can begin to help them understand what sort of techniques or what the author, how meaning is getting created through the various strategies or approaches or things like that. Like, why does this essay begin with this little dialogue between, John and his father? How's that? What is that having to do? Why did an author choose that? So now we're pushing into a little bit more, kind of analytic analysis of a text. So, but I think that approach to literacy can work wherever you are, whatever kind of literacy I'm hoping to gain, helping to help a student or a person gain. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a great 3-step approach on that. I'm interested to know, as you have spent so many years doing this and seeing, different students. It seems to me today, I have a daughter that's a senior. She's in AP English classes now, for the second time now, Lit and Comp. But our teenagers are experiencing the world through 144 character tweets and language in text messages that I have to have translation tools to better understand what it is that they're saying. Do you find it difficult to help this generation connect to complex text more than prior generations, prior students, generations, but like just what is it like today trying to derive meaning in complex text when they're so inundated with such short form versions of written communication?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, yes, I'd say length of text matters much more today than it would have, I think, 15 or 20 years ago in teaching. Though it has mattered, 30 years ago or 40 years ago when I was teaching in the Samoa, if I handed out a 5-page or, a 10-page essay, oh no, we have to do that. Right. So, length there's
At some
always
level, teenagers have never wanted to read a long text.
Correct.
Right.
Nor have adults.
It's true. Human beings don't love a long text.
Yeah, it's why short stories are so popular as opposed to novels.
True.
So generally today, I have adapted to shorter kind of assignments so we tackle a longer text in pieces rather than, all at once. So that has definitely changed. We read East of Eden in the AP English class, which is about 680 pages. And I'd say almost everybody in that class has never read, unless they're big Harry Potter fans, has never read a text anywhere near that length.
Right.
So, it used to be, okay, let's read chapter or pages 1 to 100 for Monday. Well, now it's going to be, let's read pages 1 to 40 for Thursday, the 2 days from now. And then let's read 41 to 62 for, Friday. I got to break it down a little bit more just because, the extent of the text is in and depth. I mean, they feel encumbered. They don't feel like they can push into, and it doesn't get done. They kind of think, oh, I can do that pretty quickly. So I'd say yes, but the ability to comprehend, I don't think has changed. Their ability to move into that text, I think, pretty similar from 30 years ago. So
there.
You identified, okay, I have to learn the language of tweets and whatever it is, Insta, Snaps, I have to learn the text. They have this comprehension. Well, that's true. You're gaining a literacy that you're having to figure out you're accessing into that text, figuring out meaning, what's going on there. The same way they're having to with other kinds of things we would be more familiar with, maybe a recipe or whatever it might be, the back of the cereal box. But I think their cognitive skill set to be able to decipher and to be able to make connections, to be able to learn, they're intimidated by it. I call what we do rhetorical analysis. That is a frightening term. Many adults would say, rhetorical, I don't know anything about that. What are you talking about? Right. But we do it all the time. We do it every day. Everybody does it. So helping them move into that meaning, that brain is making connections and able to analyze. Once they kind of learn the skill set of that, they're able to do that fairly effectively. Like, I'll give you an example. So if we took a look at a picture, a painting or something, and the main speaker or the main character in the painting is standing. Okay, well, why is that person standing, and how is standing, affecting the way we see that character? What would happen if that character was kneeling? What would happen if that character was sitting? And how would the meaning be different if those other, stances were happening? Why in this text does this author use the term chalice as opposed to cup? What are the implications of that term being used here as opposed to, drank the soda from the bottle? So students' capacity to think through that, to cognitively analyze, I don't find much difference from, years ago. I think that's pretty similar. Once they gain a confidence with it, once they see how it works or what to do there, they can do that adeptly. So it's the length of text that you point out that it really has changed. That's definitely changed.
A little bit stressful for them. Okay, well, let's wrap up here with pointing ourselves. Man, you just dropped some good wisdom. There's so many good things that came out of that, but I want to get your lens on sort of the future, on where it's going. We just kind of walked up to the complex text and ability to kind of approach it similarly, obviously with new challenges today. Do you see new challenges evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? What's kind of around the horizon from the Principal Franz lens that says, Okay, this is like something maybe that you're worried about, and it may be something that you're really excited about around the corner.
Yeah, maybe. I think it might be tied together. So, one, I think clearly there has been enough research to show the anxiety levels, the depression levels, the stress levels of adolescents, particularly at the level where I interact with them, is grown. It's significantly
Right.
grown. And I think, we've made clear connections between that and social media. So the interactions digitally, I think we learned through pandemic that, for most students, not all, but for most students, really digital learning does not work that well. It was a great lesson to learn because prior to that, digital learning was the Putzi Manila. It was the way to go. I mean, we got, these kind of classes online, now.
Zoom for everyone.
Yeah, now you got to do classes online. It's like, oh, no, I got to do that. So we've learned limitations, but I'm not sure we've learned the limitations of social media and human-to-human interactions that happen in a digital form that are extraordinarily limiting in the way humans really were born and need to interact with one another. So, and it's affecting adolescents significantly as they're growing up doing that all the time. So the challenge of that is, being able to help identify what are the limitations of digital interactions and social media and all the comments or whatever, and how people are interacting with one another digitally that's different from 20 years ago. And then modifying education to be responsive to those needs. So Bishop Kelley, in the last 3 years, I'd say, we have purposefully encouraged and strongly encouraged teachers to do far more interactive, small group setting, small group projects, small group kind of work together. So students have this opportunity to interact in effective ways. Sitting in a classroom with 19 other kids and hearing a teacher speak, that is not, in today's world, I could do that digitally really effectively, and I probably don't need that teacher as well. So enhancing the way interactions happen, peer-to-peer especially, is important. And I think, so learning the limitations of the digital age and modifying education to be able to respond to those needs all humans have for interaction with each other, but in more meaningful, thoughtful, respectful, compassionate ways that don't always happen in social media or comments or whatever it might be.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And I love that. And that's a future that we need to focus on, and we need to be intentional about it, because sometimes these things sort of sneak up on us because they're fancy and we like doing them. And then we learn that maybe they weren't the best for us. So I appreciate that view of what we can do to be intentional. It's been excellent having you on the show. I really appreciate the time that you've taken, and I hope that we have a chance to connect again in the future soon.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. And thank you for the work you're doing with, enhancing literacy. It's a key component of the way we move through education today. So thank you for the work you're doing.
If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Learn how we help students by identifying and removing phonological barriers at mindplay.com.